Chapter 21 Tit for Tat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Roger, you won't believe what the Rocks pirates just pulled off. Riley grabbed a newspaper and hurried over to Roger, who was standing at the ship's bow, straw hat on his head. Oh yeah? What did Rocks do now? Roger asked, taking the paper. He read it, then exclaimed, damn. This Rocks guy's really gonna tear up the Navy in the back half of the Grand Line. Surprised, Roger looked at the newspaper, his eyes fixed on the photos of the destroyed G-8 base. Whoa! Another paper. Says Rockefeller Charlotte, the Rocks pirates' new hotshot, captain of the 8th Division, has a bounty of 500 million berries. Rocks is recruiting new blood, huh? Roger stared at Charlotte's photo, his eyes widening. The photo captured the moment Charlotte and another high-ranking Rocks pirate were clashing with Conqueror's hockey. You could practically see the sky splitting apart right there in the picture. What a monster. These young guys are something else. Riley came up beside Roger and glanced at Charlotte's picture. Ha! Forget about him, let's keep on our adventure. We're men who are gonna see the whole ocean. Roger waved his hand dismissively, tossing the newspapers overboard with a laugh. Hey! Even if it's just a risk, why'd you throw them away? I could have gotten 50 berries for those. Riley smacked his forehead, shaking his head. Don't sweat the small stuff. Let's have a banquet. Let's celebrate the Navy taking another big L. Roger clapped Rayleigh on the shoulder. Alright, the rest of the crew cheered at the prospect of a party. Even if you hold a banquet, you don't have to make such a bad excuse. Riley just sighed, looking at the crew as the Roger pirates' first mate. He was in charge of the finances. Despite their strength, the Roger pirates were practically broke. They never robbed anyone. All their money went toward fighting other pirates or the Navy, barely enough to cover daily expenses. The sea was in an uproar over the destruction of the Navy's G-8 base, overshadowing the arrival of Charlotte. Only a select few noticed Charlotte's addition to the crew and remembered his name. Ugh. Charlotte opened his eyes, squinting in the sunlight, feeling disoriented. He'd drunk way too much at the banquet the night before, never being able to hold his alcohol. He'd passed out pretty quickly. Now he woke up with a pounding headache. He sat up, looking around, and realized he was still in the port, surrounded by pirates sleeping like logs. Charlotte pushed himself to his feet, swaying slightly. Boss? Ivan, who had stayed by Charlotte's side, perked up as soon as Charlotte woke up. Charlotte saw Ivan and shook his head. Looking around again, he spotted Rocks and the Golden Lion, still sound asleep. Thinking back to the previous day, Charlotte managed a wry smile. He never expected he'd become a pirate, especially not like this. He'd fantasized about it countless times, beheading celestial dragons, freeing slaves, or taking down the Navy. He just never imagined being coerced by Rocks into joining his crew. Looking at the town behind him, he saw no signs of destruction. The pirates hadn't taken advantage of his unconsciousness to burn, kill, and loot. It seemed his show of force yesterday had worked. Are the townspeople all right? Charlotte asked, concerned. This was his hometown in the pirate world, and he didn't want it destroyed. Yeah, boss. Some pirates tried to enter the town yesterday, but that giant with the crescent mustache stopped them. Ivan said, shaking his head. Crescent mustache? Edward Newgate? Charlotte was surprised that he'd helped. Aha! Ivan nodded, pointing. Charlotte looked and saw Edward Newgate on the deck of a large ship, watching the sunrise with a bottle in hand. Charlotte walked over. Don't bother thanking me, kid, Edward Newgate said without looking at him. Charlotte paused, the words of gratitude catching in his throat. Seeing Charlotte's awkward expression, Edward Newgate burst out laughing. Gwahahaha! His booming laughter seemed to vibrate the sea itself. The noise was deafening. The sleeping pirates were jolted awake by the sound. Damn it! Who's ruining my sleep? A groggy pirate looked up to yell, then froze. He saw Edward Newgate. Sea captain. The pirate broke out in a cold sweat. Why yes. Sorry, Captain. Edward Newgate ignored him, and the pirate breathed a sigh of relief. That big ship belonged to Edward Newgate, and those were his crew. Jia ha ha ha. What's got Newgate laughing so early? Share the joke, that the golden lion Shiki floated over, bang. Keep your hands off my ship, Edward Newgate punched Shiki, sending him flying backward. Shiki quickly summoned his swords to block the blow. Jia ha 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 ha. Touchy this morning, huh? You want a piece of me, the golden lion's voice dripped with menace. Run. They're gonna fight. Get out of here. A pirate yelled, scrambling off the ship. What's going on? Confused pirates mumbled, waking up in the port. The 1st and 2nd Division captains are about to throw down. Hearing that, the dazed pirates snapped awake. What? Run, they knew how terrifying those two were, and they scrambled to their feet and scattered. Even Charlotte grabbed Ivan and jumped back down to the port. Rox had also woken up by now, sitting in a daze in front of the ashes of last night's bonfire. Captain, shouldn't we stop them? Charlotte asked. Charlotte still wasn't used to calling Rox captain. Hearing Charlotte's question, Rox looked up and grinned. Let them fight. On my ship, there's no rule against crewmates fighting each other. Strength is all that matters here. Rox declared. Charlotte said nothing. He'd heard stories about this crew. The Rox pirates relied on Rox's power to subjugate other pirates, forcing them to submit. He had ambitions of becoming the king of the world, and although he ultimately failed at God Valley, he was undoubtedly the overlord of this sea. No other pirate crew could stand against him. Even Roger avoided him, choosing to sail in other directions, unwilling to provoke the Rox pirates. Chapter 22 Harchinos. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Even though Charlotte wasn't thrilled with this rule, he kept it to himself. He'd never felt like he truly belonged with this pirate crew anyway. Now that he was in, he'd use the opportunity to train hard. Strengthening himself was the only thing that mattered. Now that you're the captain of the 8th Division, we gotta lay down the rules. You run your crew and everything else however you want, including your ships. But you gotta kick back, % of your loot. Got it? Rock's voice was low and steady, but Charlotte still felt the force of that order. Yes, Captain. Charlotte nodded. Good. Rox nodded, satisfied, then stood up. We're staying in this port for the day. Get ready. Rox commanded. Yes, Charlotte responded. Edward Newgate and Golden Lion Shiki didn't throw down after all. They just stared each other down for a minute, and then Golden Lion Shiki was gone. Edward Newgate found himself alone on deck. That old loneliness crept back in. When am I gonna have a family of my own? Edward Newgate drifted off, wondering what the future held. The next day, Charlotte showed up at the port with a crew of over 100 people. The Rox pirates' 10 ships were loaded with supplies and ready to go, waiting for Charlotte. The 100+ people Charlotte brought were all members of the Wild Wolf gang. When they heard Charlotte was going to sea as a pirate, they all wanted in. So Charlotte took them. The group included doctors, nurses, navigators, cooks, bosuns, sailors, fighters, and even maids to wait on them. It was quite the crew, and the ship Charlotte and his people were taking was the one Charlotte had been building for over a year. Now it was finally ready to sail. Heh heh heh. This kid brings all these people. You think he's playing house? Golden Lion Shiki curled his lip, seeing Charlotte bring so many old and infirm folks. Ha ha ha. What do you expect? It's the kid's first time out. Of course he's gonna pack extra stuff. Rox didn't sweat it. Charlotte raised the Rox pirates flag. With a mighty roar from Rox, they set off. Charlotte looked back at the shrinking port inside, wondering how long it would be before he returned. He shook his head, trying to get rid of the feeling. I'm getting caught up in everyone else's emotions again. That ever since he'd awakened his hockey, he'd been easily influenced by the feelings of those around him. It was a pain in the neck for Charlotte, annoying because he couldn't control it. The reason Charlotte had saved so many slaves over the past 2 years wasn't because he wanted to. He did it after being overwhelmed by their emotions, acting without thinking. Of course, Charlotte didn't regret it. A real man doesn't second-guess his actions. Master, Sensing Charlotte was out of sorts, Jenny stepped forward and gently rubbed his forehead. Charlotte touched Jenny's hand, lost in thought. Over the past year, Charlotte had come to understand what these 5 little maids were thinking. Ever since that incident after drinking, Charlotte no longer saw them as just maids. They were family. "I'm gonna crash. Wake me up if you need anything." Charlotte closed his eyes and started to snore softly. At that moment, the 30-meter ship was slowly making its way through the sea. Ahead of it, 10 ships even bigger than Charlotte's were sailing at full speed, and Charlotte's ship could only lag behind. A few days later, they reached Pirate Island, Harchinos. Ha 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 ha. Finally back. That was one long trip. Golden Lion Shiki was the first to jump ashore. Sailing non-stop for over 10 days straight was enough to make anyone seasick. To get back faster, the Rock's pirates hadn't stopped at any islands along the way. After Golden Lion Shiki got off, several other officers followed, then came the rest of the pirates. "This is Pirate Island." Charlotte looked around curiously. Hearing Charlotte's question, Golden Lion Shiki floated over. "That's right. This is our pirate haven, the island that belongs to us," Golden Lion Shiki said cheerfully. "Pretty impressive, huh?" Charlotte nodded. It was different than he imagined. He expected a chaotic, dirty island. Instead, it was quite bustling. It was far more developed than his own little Kame Island. Sure, there were countless sword-wielding pirates and scantily clad slaves roaming around, but overall, it was a pretty good place. "Captain, you're back." 3 figures appeared before Rocks and the others. "Ha ha ha. John, Silver Axe, Wang Ji, did you finish the job?" Rocks asked happily, seeing the 3. "Don't you worry, Captain. We razed those kingdoms to the ground, and their kings' heads are decorating our belts," John said with a grin, his eyes greedy. Anyone who knew him knew he'd probably made a fortune from those kingdoms. "Ha ha ha. Same as always, % goes to the 7th floor and the rest is yours to split." Rocks waved his hand dismissively. John nodded, but a closer look revealed dissatisfaction in his eyes. Silver Axe and Wang Ji kept quiet. Their bodies were hidden in armor, and Charlotte couldn't see what they looked like. "The captain said we have a new crew member. Where is he? Let me meet him." John scanned the group of officers, trying to find Charlotte. Charlotte's face darkened slightly. Was this guy blind? He was standing right there. Figuring he needed to make an example of someone to establish himself on this island, he decided to start with this guy. Hearing John's words, the other officers exchanged glances, looking forward to the show. "If your eyes don't work, donate them to someone who needs them." Charlotte stepped forward, glaring at John. "Hey. This is our new officer. I hear he's a swordsman. Wonder how strong he is. I doubt he can handle being the captain of the 8th Division." John sized up Charlotte, who was as tall as him but radiating coldness, and spoke indifferently. "Why don't you come try me and see if I'm qualified?" A murderous glint appeared in Charlotte's eyes. "Whoa, you got hockey in the attitude to match. Bet your mom never taught you how to speak to your seniors, huh?" "Oh wait, that's right. You don't seem to have one." John slapped his head mockingly, grinning at Charlotte. Chapter 23 John Silver Axe Straight. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Whoosh! The sword flashed. Charlotte's sword clashed with John's. Bang! Clang! Charlotte, fed up with John's trash talk, drew his sword. John immediately drew his own Western-style sword to block the blow. "Whoa there, easy. What's with the anger? We're supposed to be partners," John said casually, holding a flask in one hand and his sword in the other. Charlotte glanced at Locks and the others behind him. They were all watching with interest, making no move to stop the fight, and the surrounding pirates. They were all whispering, but Charlotte heard them clearly. "Is that Rockefeller Charlotte, the new captain of the 8th Division with a bounty of 500 million? Why is he fighting with Old Man John? Who knows? Maybe the newbie's got no respect for his elders, or maybe John's just testing him." Some pirates lounged on sofas, watching the confrontation between the two as if it were a sideshow. hearing the gossip and seeing those bastards watching from the sidelines, Charlotte snapped. He put some serious power into his right hand, unleashing a fierce slash. Hey hey hey. Now you're getting serious. John dodged the blow, looking at Charlotte, then, he returned a slash of his own. Charlotte coated his sword with armament hockey and parried the attack, sending his own sword energy flying. Is that all you've got? Charlotte looked at John with disdain. He dared to challenge him with that kind of strength? John shrugged, tossed his flask aside, drew a pistol from his waist, aimed at Charlotte, and pulled the trigger. Bang! Charlotte saw and heard a bullet, covered in armament hockey, hurtling towards him. He tilted his head slightly. The bullet grazed his face. Charlotte unleashed another slash, this time putting in more effort. A 30-foot-long arc of energy shot toward John, cutting off all escape routes. Silver Axe and Wang Ji both raised their eyebrows slightly at this. This Charlotte had some real strength. That slash alone was beyond ordinary. It was at least at the level of a vice admiral. John, seeing the attack, finally got serious. He sobered up instantly. He braced his Western-style sword in front of him and managed to block the slash. Whoa! Blocked it. What about this one? Another slash, this time a 100-foot-long arc of sword energy, was visible to everyone on the island. What's that? Is someone attacking? Countless pirates wondered, but they all shook their heads. Who would be crazy enough to attack the Rock's pirates' headquarters? After seeing the 100-foot slash, John swung his sword with all his might, sending out an equal blast of energy. Bang! The two slashes, one white and one red, collided, but in the end, Charlotte's white slash overpowered John's, but it lost some strength, stopping just 6 feet from John before dissipating. Charlotte raised an eyebrow. Not bad, huh? Now I'm getting excited. Charlotte watched as his hockey intensified, bearing down on John. John didn't say anything, but his muscles tensed, holding his gun in one hand and his sword in the other. Charlotte raised his hand slightly, ready for the next attack. Enough. Charlotte, there's no need to get all stiff with your crewmates. Rox appeared behind Charlotte, putting a hand on his shoulder. Charlotte felt a chill run down his spine. That speed. Charlotte was shocked, hearing Rock's words. Charlotte smiled casually, sheathed his sword, and dissipated his hockey. Then, turning to Rox, he said. Really? Just pulling your leg. Seeing Charlotte, who had been murderous 1 second and grinning the next, made the pirates feel uneasy. The captain of the 8th Division was definitely no pushover. Even John, without a word, put away his weapons and stopped provoking Charlotte. Seeing Charlotte's strength, John decided to remain silent. With the fighting over, everyone gathered together. Jaya, ha 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 ha. Nice one, Charlotte. I've been wanting to take that old geezer John down a peg for a while. Never gives it his all, just loafs about all day and still gets the biggest share of the loot. Golden Lion Shiki floated over to Charlotte, chewing on a cigar. Every time John went out to plunder, he would show up when the fighting was already over. There was never any treasure left for anyone else, which really pissed people off. Even Edward Newgate nodded. Barely have any money for my sweets. Charlotte Linlin chimed in. Apparently, a lot of people here were unhappy with John. Charlotte watched as everyone looked at John with disgust, but John continued to drink indifferently, talking with Silver Axe and Wang Ji. What's the deal with those three? Charlotte asked, pointing at them. Them? They were the first to follow Rox, even before us, and Captain Rox trusts them a lot. That John isn't much of a fighter, but he handles the Rox pirates' finances. Silver Axe and Wang Ji are both combatants. They each have the strength of a great swordsman back in the day, but unfortunately, they're getting old. So who knows if they can still fight at their full potential. The Golden Lion looked at the three with disdain. As Golden Lion Shiki, Edward Newgate and Charlotte Linlin who joined in the middle, they naturally disliked them, forming the emerging faction headed by the Golden Lion, Charlotte Linlin, and Edward Newgate, and the old faction headed by John, Silver Axe. Both factions disliked each other. Then if I fought against the two of them, who would be stronger? Charlotte asked, rolling his eyes. Sure. Cook cast him a look and looked at them disdainfully. If it's a real life-or-death battle, I could kill them all in a single day. Golden Lion Shiki said domineeringly. That kind of all-conquering, domineering arrogance set Charlotte's blood on fire. To be able to look down on everything like that, he clenched his fist. Soon. In a few years, he'd be able to look down on everything, too. Gathering his thoughts, Charlotte followed the Golden Lion and the others inside. As a newcomer, he naturally stood with the Golden Lion's faction. It might not directly lead to anything, but it could make those who cared about it afraid. 8 people came to a halt. It was magnificent, and all kinds of gold ornaments hung on the walls. There was a very large throne in the middle, and behind the throne was a huge seat chart. Charlotte squinted slightly. It was a map of the second half of the Grand Line. From the map, he could see the Rock's pirates' current range of influence. Rock's Zebek walked to the throne and sat down without hesitation, and the 7 of them sat down in order according to their own teams. Chapter 24: The Naval Fleet Attacks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Haiten Muchan and Haiten Chanwan still haven't checked in. Rox scanned the crowd, not seeing his 2 7th Squad captains. The Golden Lion and the others glanced at John's group after hearing Rock's question. Yo ho ho. Those guys? Beats us. Ain't seen them since the mission started. John chuckled, taking a swig of his wine. Rox frowned at John's response and pulled out his den mushi. Bolu. 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 Captain Rox, help. The Marines are here in the New World, led by Admiral Cyborg Sora himself. Haiten Muchan's frantic voice crackled through the den mushi, punctuated by the sounds of cannon fire. What's your location? Rox demanded. The others couldn't miss Haiten Muchan's plea, and they realized the gravity of the situation, pursued by the Marines, with Admiral Cyborg Sora leading the charge. That's intense. Captain. We're in the Ira-Zel Sea area. Get us out of here. Rox hung up the den mushi, and the hall fell silent. Then, after a long pause. Ha 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 ha. Set a course for the Ira-Zel Sea. We'll show those Marines who runs this show. Rock's booming voice echoed through the room, laced with arrogance. Yes, sir. The 7 great officers roared in unison. Rox strode down from his throne, with the Charlotte family close behind. All right, you scallywags, assemble. Destination, Ira-Zel Sea. Rox bellowed from a massive viewing platform. His words sparked immediate action from the entire crew. Shiki, I'll need your float fruit later. Rox said, looking at the Golden Lion. No sweat, Captain. The Golden Lion Shiki replied, chewing on his cigar. Charlotte finally understood. Golden Lion Shiki possessed the float fruit, allowing him to levitate and control any non-living object. The pirates mobilized with surprising speed, exceeding Charlotte's expectations. They followed Rox to an enormous pirate ship. The Golden Lion Shiki tapped his toes. Instantly, dozens of pirates bobbed into the air. Steadying himself, Charlotte realized his boat was hundreds of feet above the ocean, practically within arm's reach of the clouds. He was amazed by the sheer absurdity of this pirate world. Maybe he should grab a devil fruit too. He knew about a couple of powerful, unowned devil fruits, the bat fruit, model, vampire, in Sleeping Ancient Town, and the rumble fruit on Sky Island. Both had serious potential. He'd snag those another day. The rumble fruit would be trickier, being 10,000 meters in the sky. He glanced at Golden Lion Shiki, wondering if his float fruit could lend a hand. Good to have options. The ship sped through the sky, and the Ira-Zel Sea wasn't far from Harchinos Island. Within a few hours, they could hear the distant thunder of artillery. Looking down, they saw a pirate ship flying the Rox Pirates flag, under heavy fire from 10 Marine warships. Let's drop in. Rox commanded the Golden Lion Shiki. Shiiki immediately set the ship down on the sea. Meanwhile, on the Marine side. Reporting to Admiral Cyborg Sora. The Rox Pirates fleet is forming, led by Rox Zebek. A lookout shouted. Hearing this, Cyborg Sora grabbed his binoculars, focusing on a distant speck. Through the lenses, he saw Rox leading his 7 great officers directly toward them. Sora, let's crush those Rox pirates right now. Garp yelled, practically bouncing with excitement. Pipe down. Don't bother the Admiral. Sengoku snapped, silencing Garp with a slap. Cyborg Sora weighed his options, surveying his 10 warships, the 10 warships of the other side, as well as the high-end combat power at his disposal. He had Garp and Sengoku, plus 5 elite marine vice-admirals from headquarters. The odds favored them. Cyborg Sora's eyes narrowed. Attack the Rocks pirates. Justice will prevail. Sora roared. The order went out. Justice will prevail. The Marines shouted in unison. Charlotte, over 1,000 meters away, chuckled quietly. Let's go get them. Rocks bellowed. Roar. The pirates roared back, brandishing their weapons. Even the 7 great officers drew their swords and guns. The battered ship led by Heighten Muchan limped into formation, ready to join the counterattack. Big Buddha shockwave. As they closed to a few hundred meters, Sengoku transformed into his golden Buddha form. He unleashed a massive shockwave at the Rocks pirates, but they didn't even flinch. Goo ha 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 ha, boom, boom. Edward Newgate, cloud cutter in hand, stepped to the bow, casually tossing his cloak aside. Bang, he rammed cloud cutter into the deck. Then, raising his massive fist, his lips curled into a grin beneath his golden mustache. Air quake. With a deafening roar, Edward Newgate's muscles bulged as his fist collided with the incoming shockwave. The space around his fist shattered from the force of the impact, space itself splintered, and the shockwave shattered like glass. Turnabout is fair play. Edward Newgate's grin widened, his hands gripped the air. Seaquake. Veins popped in Edward Newgate's temples, his arm muscles swelled again, he yanked downwards with all his might. The scene that followed shocked everyone. The once calm sea suddenly split apart, sending towering waves crashing towards the 10 marine warships. The sailors panicked, even the admiral stared at the approaching tsunami, pale with terror. Brace yourselves. Hold on to the deck. Don't fall overboard. Cyborg Sora screamed, grabbing a nearby railing. Sengoku clung tightly to a mast, desperate to avoid the sea. As a devil fruit user, falling into the water would be his doom. Damn those Rocks pirates. Sengoku roared. Garp, his expression grim, gripped the railing with white knuckles. The Marines weren't the only ones stunned, the Rocks pirates themselves were awestruck. All eyes were on Edward Newgate. Chapter 25 The General Retrenchment of the Navy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wow, ha 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 ha. Newgate's gotten even stronger. Rock stared at Edward Newgate, a hint of fear in his eyes. Edward Newgate chuckled, Wahahaha. Cap, you're joking. My strength is nothing compared to yours. Charlotte watched Whitebeard's attack, deeply impressed. No wonder they call him the strongest guy in the world. With that kind of power, he could do whatever he wanted out here. Seeing 10 naval warships get wrecked in one shot, the Rocks pirates started hollering. Whitebeard. 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 That was the nickname the pirates gave Edward Newgate. The sight of that iconic white beard bristling as he unleashed his power sent shivers down everyone's spines. Gohahahaha. Whitebeard Edward Newgate stood at the ship's bow, loving the cheers. Even the other officers were grinning, except for Rocks and his old crew, who looked worried. Wow ha 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 ha. Lads, catch up to those Navy ships. I'm gonna off a general today. Rocks D. Jibek jumped to the front of the ship and roared at the retreating naval vessels. Kill the general. Kill the general. The pirates roared back, and 10 pirate ships took off after the fleeing navy. Damn it. Steelbones Kong watched the waves swallow the ships, his heart aching. Those were the Navy headquarters best. General Cyborg. Pull back now. This isn't a fight we can win. Warring States yelled to Steelbones Kong, who was still fuming, hanging on to the ship's mast. Cyborg Sora saw the pirate fleet coming, too, and clenched his fists. Retreat. Retreat. Get out of this area. Steelbones Kong roared, defeated. Hearing that, the messenger blew the retreat horn, not caring about his own safety. Woo! The long horn echoed. The fleet of 10 warships and smaller vessels adjusted their sails and started to run. The Rocks pirates cheered even louder. Long live Rocks! Long live the Rocks Pirates. Extra. Extra. Major Navy defeat in the second half of the Grand Line. Admiral Cyborg Kong retreats to the New World. Retreats to Navy headquarters. Extra. Extra. The Rocks Pirates declare all-out war on the world government. Attacking member nations worldwide. The Navy's defeat is a devastating blow to countless people in the New World. Newspaper seagulls flew around the globe, spreading the news of the Navy headquarters failure. Bang! Cyborg Kong slammed his fist on his desk, smashing it to pieces. Damn rocks! Damn Rocks Pirates! Cyborg Kong roared at the newspaper on the table. After being forced to evacuate the second half of the Grand Line, Rocks and his pirates were going after world government member nations like crazy. 3 New World Alliance nations had already been wiped out. Brother Kong. Let me take charge in the New World. Garp stood up. Because of the Navy headquarters defeat, the pirates completely controlled the second half of the Grand Line, leaving only a few critical bases near the Red Line. That's why the pirates started calling the second half of the Grand Line the New World. Now, because the Navy headquarters had pulled back, most of their forces stayed near the Red Line branches, making the second half of the New World a pirate's paradise. No. The Navy's failure has unleashed pirates everywhere. You're in charge of suppressing the East Blue. Warring states, you handle the South Blue. Zifa's gone to the West Blue, and the North Blue is in chaos again. Suru, you go to the North Blue. I'm giving you the first half of the Grand Line. Wipe out every last pirate. Cyborg Kong ordered. This order actually came from the world government. The Rocks Pirates were wreaking havoc in the New World, and countless ambitious people were seizing the opportunity. South Blue. Alright, you guys. Head for the Grand Line. Head for the New World. A pirate wearing a horned hat raised his musket and shouted. Grand Line. New World. The pirates roared. West Blue. Ha 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 ha. Set sail, lads. We're aiming for the New World. A 9-foot-tall man with a cone on his head yelled. Aye, Captain. The pirates yelled back. Unlike other pirates, these guys wore neat military uniforms and moved in organized formations. They looked more like an army. Captain. It's bad. Zifa's on our tail. A minion in an army green coat ran over, yelling. What? Zifa? Damn the Navy. I'll show them my cone head. The East Blue and the North Blue. Pirates were popping up everywhere. Countless ambitious people set sail with nothing but a plank of wood and a dream. Jia ha 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 ha. Captain, we're famous now. Tons of pirates want to join us. What do you say, Captain? Golden Lion Shiki showed Rocks the newspaper. Rocks looked at the newspaper in his hand. Rocks D. Jibek, wanted, 20 billion berries. Dead or alive, for heinous crimes. Rocks crushed the newspaper. Recruit them. Recruit them all. Arm every squad. I'm going to rule the world. Become the king of the world. Rocks roared, his face twisted with ferocity. The 8 officers standing nearby felt the full force of his domineering presence. Jia ha ha ha. Just waiting for you to say the word, Captain. Golden Lion Shiki laughed, a similar look in his eyes. Charlotte sat at the end of the table, staring at the bounty poster in his hand. His youthful face was splattered with blood, corpses lay around him, and a nervous smile stretched across his face. Blood soared. Lord Rockefeller. Charlotte. Captain of the Rocks Pirates 8th Division, wanted, 90 million berries. Heinous. Dead or alive. Because he followed Rocks and destroyed several member nations, his bounty had jumped big time. Let's go. Let's go take a look at our future subordinates. See if there are any good ones. Rocks stood up and addressed the 8 officers, then he turned and headed outside. The others stood up, too. Only Golden Lion Shiki and John seemed excited about recruiting new members. The rest weren't interested. Rocks pushed open the gate. Countless pirates surrounded Harchinosu Island. When they saw the Rocks Pirates and the officers behind them, they erupted in cheers. Captain Rocks, they all wanted to join Rocks' crew. Chapter 26 Recruitment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at the pirates surrounding his hull, Rox burst out laughing. Waha! You scumbags want to join the Rox pirates? If you do, fight. Only the last 800 standing get in. Ha ha ha. Rox gazed at the thousands before him. Jia ha ha ha. Golden Lion, cigar clenched in his teeth, watched the scene. Rox's decision was exactly what he wanted, the weak need not apply. Hearing this, the pirates scanned the crowd, a sea of heads and bloodshot eyes. Countless people desperately wanted to join, while the newer pirates swallowed hard, a chill creeping down their spines. Roar! After a moment of silence, the square erupted, pirates pulled their blades, slashing at anyone next to them. Pandora's box was officially open, a bloody free-for-all consumed the thousands of pirates, while the officers behind Rox had mixed reactions. Whitebeard Edward Newgate looked grim, while Golden Lion Shiki cackled madly. Charlotte Lin munched on cake, unfazed. Silver Axe Wang Ji's face was hidden by his armor. John, as if watching a show, casually drank wine as he observed the carnage. Spotting Charlotte watching him, he grinned. She turned away, unimpressed. John raised an eyebrow and went back to watching the fight. Haiten Muchan and his brother, however, trembled with fear. It was a mystery how they'd become officers. Rox and Charlotte watched the fight, both noticing potential recruits. Many were on par with current officers, with a good number of Zoan Devil Fruit users. Swordsmen were rare, mostly just pirates swinging blades without any real skill. Charlotte scoffed, finding none impressive, but to humor Captain Rox, she stood there and watched the spectacle. About 3 hours passed, the fighting finally ended. Stop! Rox roared, his hockey washing over the surviving pirates. Waha! Congratulations on passing the final test. Welcome to the Rox pirates. Rox announced enthusiastically. The survivors cheered, some even embracing former opponents. Newcomers cried with relief, thankful for their survival. Rox! 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 They shouted his name with joy. Whoa whoa whoa! Rox threw his head back and roared with laughter. After a long moment, his expression changed. Want to be an officer? His captivating words echoed across the square. Even the 8 officers behind him were caught off guard, but the pirates below inhaled sharply, eyes gleaming with ambition. If you want to be an officer, defeat and replace one of them, Rox said with a smile, gesturing to the 8 figures behind him. The ambitious pirates instantly locked onto the officers. The 8 officers stepped forward, forming a line in front of Rox. Whitebeard Edward Newgate, with his supreme-grade blade Murakumajiri in hand, exuded immense pressure. His towering 6-meter frame already surpassed most of the pirates present. Golden Lion Shiki continued to puff on his cigar, a sinister grin playing on his lips. Charlotte Lin continued to eat her cake, never pausing. Many pirates stared at her, foolishly assuming she would be an easy target. They forgot the woman had destroyed a giant village at age 5. Silver Axe, encased in armor, was deemed too risky. John casually swigged wine, one hand resting on the Western-style sword at his hip, his gaze dismissive. The Haiten siblings were also considered easy pickings, but Charlotte was the primary target, her every move watched. With greedy eyes, she glared back at the crowd with disdain. Before Rox could speak, she stepped forward. Anyone who wants a shot, step up now. This is your only chance. Charlotte advanced, her voice dripping with scorn. Rox raised an eyebrow and shrugged. Anyone wishing to challenge the captain of the 8th Division of the Rox Pirates, the blood sword hero Rockefeller Charlotte, come forward. Rox announced, playing referee. Immediately, over 40 pirates surged forward. Rox frowned. Is that all? Don't be shy. He looked over the crowd with a smirk. Another 20 or so stumbled forward. All right. Let the challenge begin. Rox gave the signal. The 60-plus pirates rushed toward Charlotte, weapons raised. She sneered, drawing a long, ornate sword from her waist. It was a treasure she'd plundered from a kingdom allied with the world government, a vast improvement over her previous weapon. Bang! 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 Bullets whizzed past. Charlotte didn't even flinch, barely tilting her head as the projectiles sailed by. For her, with her advanced observation hockey, bullets were mere toys. My turn. Charlotte slashed her sword without even looking, unleashing a 40-meter arc of pure energy. Her strength had grown exponentially in recent battles, making her one of the top 5 fighters in the entire crew. Aside from Rox, Whitebeard, and Golden Lion, she feared no one. Aya! A chorus of screams filled the air. The charging pirates were instantly engulfed in the 40-meter wave, not a single one survived. Oh! How unfortunate! All the challengers are dead. How sad! Why Charlotte? They were all our comrades, Rock said, feigning distress. Chapter 27 Pregnancy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Charlotte rolled her eyes, seriously what's up with Captain Rox lately? He's acting like a kid. Rox just shrugged, seeing she was ignoring him. He scanned the 700 pirates in front of him. Anyone else wanna step up? Hearing Rock's challenge, many pirates flinched. If the 8th Division captain was that scary, how terrifying were the other 7? Just thinking about it made their skin crawl. Alright then. Welcome aboard. Rox D. Jibek opened his arms wide. Hooray for Captain Rox. The cheers were music to Rock's ears. Alright, pick the crew you want to join. Rox announced, gesturing to the crowd. Golden Lion Shiki couldn't wait. He. Join my flying fleet, and you'll have everything. He. Shiki floated in the air, cigar clamped in his teeth, his blonde hair swirling around him. Instantly, countless pirates were practically drooling at the sight of Shiki. Long live Boss Shiki! Long live Boss Shiki! At least a third of the 700 pirates were shouting. He. The roar of the crowd was pure bliss to Golden Lion Shiki. Almost 300 pirates instantly signed up for the Golden Lion fleet. Seeing Shiki grab so many recruits right off the bat, John couldn't be outdone. Yo ho ho ho! I'm John. You want treasure? Then join my crew. There are mountains of treasure waiting for you. John's smooth voice cut through the air. Nearly another 200 of the remaining pirates were instantly hooked, surging forward to join John's team. With Shiki and John snagging half the recruits, the other captains jumped in. Whitebeard Edward Newgate drew the biggest crowd, more than 200 pirates flocking to his side. Gururarara! Whitebeard roared with laughter. The remaining pirates were divided among Wang Ji, Silver Axe, and Haitan Muchan. Neither Big Mom Charlotte Lin nor Charlotte were recruiting. Some pirates had even tried to join Charlotte, but he turned them down. Rejected, they fell in line with Silver Axe and Wang Ji. He. Kid, nobody wants you. You want me to throw you a few scraps? He. Golden Lion Shiki couldn't help but gloat at Charlotte's empty space. Lame, Charlotte scoffed, turning to leave, leaving Golden Lion Shiki chortling to himself. He, that kid's got a serious attitude problem. Golden Lion Shiki said with a shrug. He glanced at the nearly 300 pirates behind him, a satisfied grin spreading across his face. He. Alright, you lot. I've got some gear for ya. With that, Golden Lion Shiki floated away, his new recruits hot on his heels. Boss Shiki's waiting. Charlotte headed back to his own ship. The 8th Division captain's flag flying above the deck kept any troublemakers away. Boss, you're back. Sailors rushed out as Gong Yifan approached. Yeah. How's everything going? Charlotte asked, noticing the small number of sailors cleaning the deck. Well, boss, after the last country we trashed, the boys made a killing. They're all hitting the town for some RR. Charlotte nodded and headed into the cabin. Master. Maids bowed in the hallways as he passed. Charlotte walked by, expressionless. He had rescued these women from slavery, and they now served on his ship. Charlotte didn't feel any particular obligation. Without him, they'd all be sold off, their futures bleak either to some depraved nobleman or a sleazy merchant. And all of them were stunningly beautiful. Even Charlotte had been surprised. They followed him now, and the only thing Charlotte guaranteed them was food on the table. That was already a gift beyond measure. Master. Jenny approached, followed by 4 other maids. Yeah. Charlotte nodded, pulling Jenny into a hug. Jenny blushed instantly. The other 4 maids nodded shyly. Life at sea could be a drag. Other than training, Charlotte mostly just played around with the maids. As for what kind of games, well, you get the picture. Come on. Let's go back to the room. Charlotte said, leading Jenny away. Master, no. Jenny quickly pulled away. Charlotte's brow furrowed, his gaze fixed on Jenny. Seeing his displeasure, Jenny stammered, Master. I'm pregnant. Charlotte's mind blanked. Pregnant? You're pregnant? He looked at Jenny, dumbfounded. When did this happen? He was having a hard time processing it. How many times had they they hadn't been using protection, but he hadn't expected it to happen so fast. Today. I asked the ship's doctor to check, and I just found out. Jenny couldn't meet his eyes. Charlotte studied her face, then gently tilted her chin up, kissing her shocked eyes. A minute later, Charlotte held Jenny close. Well, if you're pregnant, we're having the baby. His voice was surprisingly gentle. Jenny had never heard him speak that way before. The other 4 maids watched with envy. Why couldn't they be pregnant? Charlotte, still holding Jenny, couldn't believe he was going to be a father. 15 was way too young to have a kid. Especially since Jenny was only 15 or 16 herself. That would land you in serious trouble back in his old life. But thinking about it, this was his first child in both lives. Charlotte was actually happy. There was nothing more important than carrying on the family name. Even if he was in a different body, he was still a foreigner, white skin, blonde hair, 6.5 feet tall. In high spirits, Charlotte swept Jenny off her feet and headed for the bedroom, Martha and the other 3 girls following close behind. It looked like tonight was another night of sleeping together. While things were getting cozy on Charlotte's ship, the whole island of Harchinos was turning into a party. Where's Charlotte? Rox asked, looking around. Probably off playing with his little harem. Golden Lion Shiki snickered, his expression more than a little creepy. Chapter 28, Heavenly Gold. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wahaha, who knew this kid was such a pervert? Seriously, Rox chuckled, slapping his thigh. Everyone else joined in the laughter. Captain Rox, that kid's something else. He's got at least 20 young and gorgeous women on his ship, all knockout beauties. I don't know how he keeps up. John grinned lewdly. They exchanged knowing glances and silent chuckles. Even Whitebeard Edward Newgate chuckled. What else do pirates talk about when they get together? Women, wealth, and power. That's what makes a pirate gathering fun. The peaceful days flew by. A pirate who doesn't plunder soon finds themselves broke and hungry. Alright, listen up. I've got intel that the annual heavenly tribute is about to start. The kingdoms of the New World will be shipping out their heavenly gold soon, escorted by a Navy headquarters Vice Admiral. Our target, that heavenly gold. Rox, seated on his throne, addressed the 8 officers below. That heavenly gold is yours for the taking. Shiki, Whitebeard, you're in charge of the heavenly gold from the Kabubing Kingdom. Lin, you and Charlotte handle the heavenly gold from the SK Kingdom. John and Silver Axe, you and Heighten Muchan split up and raise those 2 countries to the ground. Rox announced. Watching the crew, the officers were studying the intelligence Qi had provided. Charlotte examined the information about the Sky Gold ship she was assigned. It included details about the Vice Admiral Quint Gunther, an animal-type insect fruit user, praying mantis form, very powerful. Charlotte glanced at it and filed it away. Any questions? Rox asked. The hall remained silent. Any problems? Rox's voice gained an edge. No. Seeing everyone nod, Rox nodded in satisfaction. Then let's move out according to plan. As Rox finished speaking, everyone left the assembly hall. Damn it, John and those guys always get the easy jobs. The Golden Lion Shiki, upon leaving the hall, began to grumble. This assignment felt rigged, putting the four of them in the line of fire while those losers reaped the rewards. Just thinking about it made Shiki fume. Whitebeard took a swig of his drink, glanced at Shiki, and said nothing. Charlotte Linlin looked at Charlotte. Well. What do you think, Charlotte? Charlotte Linlin stared at Charlotte, questioning him. Charlotte rolled his eyes. What can I do? What do you expect me to do? Stand up to Captain Rox. If you want to die, leave me out of it. Just do what you're told. Charlotte sighed. You don't know how deep the water is until you join the Rox pirates. Get ready. We set sail soon. After a gulp of wine, Whitebeard gripped Murakumajiri tightly. Golden Lion took a drag from his cigar and nodded. Of the four of them, only two could fly. Golden Lion with his float fruit and Charlotte Linlin with her homie Zeus, made from her soul fruit. Only those two were currently capable of manned flight. They arrived at a large ship anchored in the port. Get on board. Golden Lion Shiki called to the other three. The three Charlottes boarded the ship. Before long, the ship was heading towards their destination. Out on the calm sea, 6 warships escorted 2 transport ships. The 8 ships sailed slowly. Jia ha 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 ha. Wild laughter echoed from above. The Navy crew looked up blankly. They couldn't figure out why there was laughter coming from the sky. Only the 2 Navy headquarters vice admirals realized what was happening. Crap. Pirates! Quint Gunther exclaimed, his expression changing. He instantly transformed, becoming a 2-meter-tall praying mantis on the deck. The other vice admiral immediately drew his long sword. Brace yourselves. Pirates incoming. The sun was in their eyes, making it difficult to see clearly. Why is the sun getting bigger? Someone finally noticed the anomaly. Prometheus! A booming female voice shouted. A huge wave of fire engulfed a warship. In moments, the warship was ablaze. Witnessing this, Quint Gunther immediately looked towards the source of the voice. Well. Navy, cough up the heavenly gold for the birthday bash. Charlotte's long flaming hair billowed above her head, with Zeus the thundercloud at her feet, and Napoleon in her hand. Charlotte Linlin, one of the Rox pirates' commanders, the sword-wielding Navy officer couldn't help but step back in surprise. Jia ha 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 ha. And us, the Golden Lion Shiki floated over with his ship. Golden Lion Shiki, Whitebeard Edward Newgate, Blood Sword Lord Charlotte. All of them are Rox pirates' commanders. Recognizing the figures, all the sailors on deck were in shock. Ever since Admiral Cyborg Sora's defeat, the Rox pirates had made a deep impression on the Navy. Damn! The Rox pirates are here to steal the heavenly gold. Protect the heavenly gold, Quint Gunther yelled. Fire! Repel the pirates. For justice, the vice admiral with the sword shouted. The Navy soldiers responded, manning the cannons and firing at Golden Lion Shiki and the others. Bang! 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 Seeing the incoming barrage, Whitebeard stroked his mustache. He punched the air in front of him. The powerful cannonballs exploded in mid-air. Boom! 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 Navy headquarters, this is Vice Admiral Bill Robb. We're under attack by Rox pirates commanders. Requesting backup. Requesting backup. While the pirates were occupied, another vice admiral hurried to the communication room. Headquarters receiving. Headquarters receiving. Who are the commanders involved? The contact at Navy headquarters urgently asked. Whitebeard Edward Newgate, Golden Lion Shiki, Charlotte Linlin, and Blood Sword Lord Rockefeller Charlotte. Bill Robb shouted. Damn! The contact took a sharp breath. Hold on. I'll report this immediately. The colonel, holding the Den Mushi, rushed toward Admiral Cyborg Sora's office. Back on the sea. Hey! Did you call for backup? Seems like things are moving fast. After all, this place is pretty close to the Navy. Charlotte overheard the distress call. he drew his long sword and slashed at the 4 warships. Golden Lion Shiki, seeing Charlotte make the first move, finally released his own power. He focused on the animal-type devil fruit user. Chapter 29, Dividing the Spoils. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lion's main water scroll. As soon as Golden Lion Shiki reached out, his palm morphed into a vicious claw. At his command, the sea surged and formed a colossal sea lion head, lunging to devour the approaching warship. What the? Help us! Damn it! The sight of the towering water column and the monstrous sea lion head sent a wave of shock through the ranks. Both the Navy soldiers and Lieutenant General Quint Gunther were stunned, faced with such a massive water construct. Both Gunther and Bill Robb felt a chill of despair. Neither believed they stood a chance against this attack. The water lion was lightning fast. In an instant, it swallowed the 50-meter warship whole. Jia ha ha ha! Golden Lion Shiki grinned, pleased with his handiwork. All taken care of. Shiki sauntered back to his ship and announced to the others. They simply nodded. 2 measly lieutenant generals were no match for them. They weren't monsters like Garp or Sengoku. Dealing with them was child's play. Grab those 2 ships loaded with celestial gold and let's get out of here. The Navy will be on our tails soon enough. Whitebeard Edward Newgate boomed. Golden Lion, puffing on a cigarette, activated his devil fruit power, sending the 2 ships overflowing with Bailey and treasure soaring into the sky. The 3 ships floated aloft. Golden Lion Shiki strolled out of the ship laden with gold, his cherry blossom-bladed sword, Cherry 10, in hand. Damn! I didn't expect there to be CP0 agents on board. Shiki flicked the blood from his blade. The others remained silent. Then, Golden Lion Shiki spun the sword in his hand, a glint in his eye. He peered at the others. Don't you want to know what we just got our hands on? Golden Lion Shiki asked, a smirk playing on his lips. The 3 instantly perked up, their earlier indifference gone. They all stared at Shiki, eager to know more. Gururara. What's got you so excited? Whitebeard Edward Newgate asked, taking a swig of his sake. Charlotte Linlin and Charlotte looked at Shiki with obvious curiosity. These 2 ships aren't just filled with Bailey, they're carrying the sea's hidden treasures. Shiki said, smoke curling from his cigar. A tempting statement, indeed. Devil fruits, the 3 exclaimed, startled. That's right, and not just one, Shiki emphasized. More than one. Now the 3 of Charlotte were even more shocked. Devil fruits were incredibly rare finds. Charlotte had traveled for 5 years before stumbling upon a single one. Now, they'd come across 4 in a single haul. What are you getting at, Shiki? Whitebeard asked, sensing a hidden motive behind Shiki's words. Charlotte Linlin and Charlotte fixed their gazes on Shiki, awaiting his explanation. Don't you think it's a waste to hand these over to rocks? Shiki's voice was soft, almost a whisper, as smoke billowed from his nostrils. The words hung heavy in the air, instantly changing the atmosphere. Even Charlotte Linlin paused mid-bite of her cake. Well. Shiki, are you plotting to betray Captain Rocks? Charlotte Linlin glared down at the Golden Lion. Jihahaha. Betrayal? Nah, never. Have you forgotten how I joined this crew? I never swore allegiance to Rocks. We came together for mutual benefit, nothing more. Newgate, if I recall, you were searching for a family. Found them yet? The Golden Lion's words hit a nerve with Whitebeard Edward Newgate. He'd joined the Rocks pirates seeking protection and, more importantly, a loyal crew he could call family. But over the years, he'd found nothing but ambition, greed, and endless bloodshed within the crew. He remembered countless instances where Rocks' orders led to senseless slaughter, unsettling Whitebeard deeply. Lin, I seem to recall you were looking for a nun to complete your crew. Find her yet? The Golden Lion Shiki turned his gaze to Charlotte Linlin, who was nearly 9 meters tall. None. Charlotte Linlin's demeanor instantly shifted, becoming childlike, leaving Shiki speechless. He then turned his attention to Charlotte, who hadn't uttered a word. Boy, I don't need to spell out why you joined the Rocks pirates, Shiki said, cutting straight to the point. Charlotte remained silent. So. Are any of you truly loyal to that bastard Rocks? Golden Lion Shiki challenged, his eyes scanning the group. Silence. None of them answered Shiki's question, but Shiki merely laughed. Jihahaha. It's settled, then. We'll divide the 4 devil fruits equally among ourselves. As Shiki finished his sentence, 4 wooden boxes floated towards them. Bang. 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 The boxes opened, revealing 4 devil fruits. One was a white apple covered in glittering patterns, another was a red banana marked with mysterious symbols, the third was also white with a pattern, but pear-shaped, the last one was a red patterned apple. You pick first, I'll take whatever's left, Shiki said, arms crossed. A moment of silence hung in the air. Whitebeard was the first to act. Gururara. I'll take this one, Whitebeard declared, snatching the glittering white devil fruit. Then Lin won't be polite, Charlotte. Lin grabbed the white patterned pear. With the first 2 picks made, Golden Lion Shiki looked at Charlotte. Charlotte studied the remaining 2 devil fruits, a frown furrowing his brow. Finally, he focused on the red patterned fruit. I'll take this one, Charlotte announced, picking up the red devil fruit. He chose it for a reason. He vaguely remembered hearing in his previous life that banana-shaped fruits were typically of the zoan variety, which encompassed a wide range of animals. What if he ended up with a common animal form? This red devil fruit seemed familiar. He felt like he'd seen it in an anime. He couldn't quite place it at the moment, but, if it appeared in the original series, it couldn't be too weak. Jihahaha. That leaves this one for me. Shiki said, grabbing the last empty box. He was largely ignored as the others examined their devil fruits. None of them possessed a devil fruit encyclopedia, so they were clueless about what they held in their hands. I seem to recall Rox has a devil fruit illustration book. Let's head back and take a look, Shiki suggested, noticing their puzzled expressions. The others nodded in agreement. They stowed away their devil fruits and set course for Hakanosu. The 4 of them moved at top speed. Less than 3 days later, they arrived at Hakanosu, finding the island eerily quiet. After inquiring, they learned that John and the other commanders had taken the pirates on the island to the 2 allied nations. Chapter 30 Shipbuilding. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jiahahaha. I'm green with envy for John and the others, grabbing up all the prime real estate. We're stuck picking over the leftovers and have to kick back a cut from the 7th floor. What a ripoff, Golden Lion Shiki grumbled, then he let loose with a string of curses. Wahahaha, hey there, little lion. Getting a little sassy, are we? Talking smack about your captain, Rock's booming laughter echoed from a distance. Sheesh, Golden Lion Shiki sighed, then plastered on a smile. Jia ha ha ha. How could I ever? You know you're my favorite captain, right? Shiki laid it on thick with the flattery. Inside, he was completely disgusted with himself. Yeah, whatever. Rox didn't pay him much mind, his eyes fixed on the 2 massive transport ships looming behind them. After years of pillaging on the high seas, Rox could spot a world government transport ship hauling celestial tribute gold a mile away. Wahahaha. That's what I'm talking about. You guys are my MVPs. After we get the final tally, you can have free reign with a third of this haul, Rox announced, gesturing toward his 4 top lieutenants. Jia ha ha ha. Thanks, Cap, Golden Lion Shiki replied, eyes gleaming. Wow ha ha ha, it's all thanks to you guys. After gazing at the mountain of gold one last time, Rox turned and headed back. Charlotte stared after Rox, shaking her head. Once Rox was out of sight, she muttered. Cheapskate. He's got a freaking gold mine here and he's only giving us a lousy third. He can choke on it. Ski spit out the stub of his cigar. Charlotte went inside to take a peek. These ships were carrying about 40 billion worth of celestial tribute gold. 30% of that was over $1 billion, split 4 ways. That only came out to around 200 million apiece. That was chump change for guys like them, with massive crews to support. Nowhere near enough. Especially for someone like Golden Lion Shiki. He had nearly 300 or 400 pirates under his command. What could he even do with a lousy 200 million? Charlotte herself needed at least that much, otherwise, she'd have to go back to raiding on her own. Charlotte returned to her ship. the vessel had been docked here for almost 3 months. Every time she went to sea, Charlotte just hitched a ride on someone else's ship. It wasn't that Charlotte didn't want to use her own ship, it was that her ship was a sitting duck. It was defenseless. After all, it was only a half-finished prototype. Charlotte wasn't even supposed to set sail for another 3 years. Still, there were plenty of shipwrights on Harchinos. Charlotte had asked them to come help her finish the ship. After 3 months, it looked like they were finally wrapping things up. How much longer? Charlotte asked an old man. This old guy used to be a pirate himself. He worked as a shipwright aboard a pirate ship. Later, after that pirate was absorbed, he joined other pirate crews. Eventually, he ended up on Harchinos. Because of his age, he became a shipwright on Pirate Island. Responsible for ship repair and construction. For pirates, ships were everything. So he was doing pretty well for himself when he heard that the captain of the Rocks Pirates 8th Division, the big shot on the island, wanted his ship repaired. He volunteered himself right away. After all, on this island, you needed someone to watch your back, and who better to have in your corner than one of the Rocks Pirates' top guys? Hanging with Charlotte could only help him. Captain Charlotte. We're just putting on the finishing touches. I reckon it'll be ready in about 2 or 3 days. Old Jack bowed deeply, speaking respectfully to Charlotte. All right. Just get in touch with my crew when she's ready, Charlotte said, then turned and left. Looking after Charlotte's retreating figure, Jack thought. What a great young man. Boss. Boss. Charlotte walked along, getting greetings everywhere she went. After all, this was where the 8th Division was stationed, and he was in charge here as their captain. Wasn't it normal for the crew to say hello? And these crew members were all the guys who had sailed with him on Kame Island. Everyone knew him. It wasn't easy for these men to set sail with him. Charlotte never treated his crew poorly. In the past 3 months, Charlotte had gone to sea several times, and the treasures they plundered were always shared with his younger brothers. About 50 berries per person. It didn't cost much, and you could live well on this island for a month. After all, those women in the red light district only cost 30 berries a night. It was a great deal for these energetic crew members. Life on the island was boring. Some pirates liked to throw a party to kill the time. Some pirates spent their boring lives in the red light district. But besides hanging out with the maids every day, Charlotte was also practicing her sword skills. In her daily fights with Golden Lion and Wang Ji, Charlotte also found her weaknesses. Then she trained accordingly. Her armament hockey had also been improved. She could now perfectly perform the full-body hardening but doing internal damage. Charlotte was often unable to practice. Bang. A loud bang. A big tree, big enough for 2 people to hug, snapped in half. But Charlotte didn't show a hint of happiness, because what she wanted was not a rupture, but internal destruction, breaking the heart of the tree. But no matter what she did, it didn't work. Looking at the surrounding area being practiced by herself, it became a bare place. Trees fell everywhere. Why can't it work? Charlotte murmured, looking at her fist and the armament hockey on it. It seems that no one has taught me, and it is still difficult to learn internal destruction. It seems that I have to find the Haiten-Muchan siblings. They are samurai from Wano country, and they should know how to practice. With that thought, Charlotte didn't hesitate and headed toward the 7th Division's camp. Sir. Lord Charlotte. Seeing Charlotte approaching, the little pirate at the door immediately stood up straight and said respectfully, but tension could still be seen in his expression. Are Haiten and Muchan around? Charlotte asked the pirate guarding the gate. Charlotte's gaze made the pirate afraid to look up at him. Team. Captain, they are all here, the pirate stammered. Take me to them, Charlotte ordered without even looking at him. Yes. Facing Charlotte's request, he didn't even dare to refuse. He just opened the door and took Charlotte in. Stepping into the camp, Charlotte immediately felt the difference. The air was thick with the scent of swordsmanship, but none of them were strong, not even 1% of Charlotte's momentum. Charlotte didn't even look at these third-rate swordsmen, and walked straight towards Haiten-Muchan's camp. What a powerful swordsman! Is this the swordsman? Charlotte could sense them, and they naturally sensed Charlotte.